They say blood is thicker than water. But what if blood tries to drown you? My name is Nathaniel Dalton, but most people just call me Nate. I am 29 years old, and I have always been the responsible one in my family. I am the guy who never asked for a cent after I turned 18. I worked my way through college, built a decent career in cybersecurity consulting, and managed to save enough for a comfortable life in Denver, Colorado. My younger brother, Derek, is the complete opposite. He is 26, still lives with our parents in Aurora, has bounced between at least a dozen jobs, and somehow always has a brand new gadget, expensive shoes, or the latest phone. Whenever anyone asks how he affords it, he just shrugs and says, "I have connections." What he really has is a never-ending stream of money from Mom, Sylvia, and Dad, Martin. And when that runs dry, he turns to me. Derek and I have never been particularly close, mostly because every conversation eventually turns into him asking me for money. The latest one started 2 weeks ago. He called me in the middle of the day, completely unbothered by the fact that I was in a client meeting. "Bro, I need 20 grand, he said, like he was asking to borrow a pencil. I actually laughed at first because I thought it was a joke, but he was serious. Dead serious. Apparently, he wanted to invest in some can't-miss business venture with a friend. The last time he had a can't-miss opportunity, it ended with him trying to sell designer sunglasses out of the trunk of his car. I told him no immediately. I did not have the patience to hear another one of his half-baked schemes. And even if I did, I was not about to hand over that kind of money. That no did not go over well. He got quiet. Too quiet. Then he said, "Wow, I thought you were family." And he hung up. That was Derek's way of guilt-tripping me. In the past, that line would eventually be followed by Mom calling me, saying things like, "He is your brother, Nathaniel. You should help him out just this once." Except just this once had already happened 6 or 7 times. Sure enough, a few hours later, Mom called. She did not even say hello before launching into it. "Derek told me you refused to help him. He is trying to better his life, Nathaniel." I told her I was not funding his latest get-rich-quick fantasy. She sighed dramatically and said, "You have always been selfish." The next day, I decided to stop by my parents' place after work because I had left some documents in the study when I was helping Dad set up a new printer the week before. Derek was there, sprawled out on the couch like he owned the place, watching TV on full volume while scrolling on his phone. We barely said 2 words to each other. I grabbed my folder and was about to leave when I realized I had left my work laptop charging in the guest room the night before. That laptop was my livelihood custom setup, expensive hardware, all my client files, and years' worth of work. I went to grab it, and just as I was unplugging it, Derek appeared in the doorway. He leaned against the frame, smirking, and said, "Still not going to help me out?" I did not even look up. Nope. I wish I could say what happened next was an accident, but it was too deliberate. Derek walked past me, picked up my laptop by the edge with one hand, and before I could react, he strolled to the backyard and, without hesitation, dropped it straight into the pool. I froze. The splash echoed in my ears, and my stomach sank like a rock. I managed to get out, "Are you insane?" But he just shrugged and said, "Oh, sorry. Guess my hand slipped." The casual tone in his voice was infuriating. My parents came outside when they heard me yelling. Before I could even explain, Derek threw his hands up and said, "It was an accident." What made my blood boil was my father's response. Dad, Martin, did not ask if the laptop could be saved. He did not ask if I had backups or how much it cost. He just looked at me and said, "Nathaniel, calm down. It was just an accident. It is only a laptop. Only a laptop." That machine was worth more than Derek's car. And it was not just about the cost. It was my work, the trust my clients put in me, the deadlines I carried. I stood there dripping pool water from the ruined device, staring at the people who were supposed to be my family, and I realized, they did not care. Not really. Derek chuckled, clearly enjoying himself. Guess you should have helped me when you had the chance. My dad did not scold him. My mom, Sylvia, just rolled her eyes and muttered something about boys being boys. I wanted to explode, but instead I went quiet. I have learned that when people like my family see you angry, it only fuels them. I set the ruined laptop on the patio table, forced a tight smile, grabbed my car keys, and left. That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying the moment in my head: Derek's smirk, Dad's dismissive tone, Mom's indifference. I could feel something shifting inside me. Normally, I would just distance myself, maybe cut off contact for a while. But this time felt different. This was not just about money or disrespect. This was about crossing a line. And Derek, he did not even realize what he had done. He thought it was over. It was not. By the time the clock hit midnight, I had already made a few calls and changed a stack of passwords. Small steps, just the beginning. At 6:18 a.m. the next morning, my phone rang. It was Derek. His voice was tight with irritation. "Hey, my Netflix is not working. Did you change the password?" I almost laughed, but I kept my voice calm. "Yeah, Derek. Along with the Amazon account, the Hulu account, the Apple Music subscription, and the Xbox Live login. You do not pay for them, so you do not get to use them anymore." He was silent for a second, then spat out, "Wow, petty much," before hanging up. By 9 a.m., Mom was on the phone. She did not even say hello. "Nathaniel, I just got off the phone with Derek. He said you are punishing him over a misunderstanding." A misunderstanding. That was her word for intentionally destroying a $4,000 laptop. She kept going before I could reply. "You know, your brother needs those accounts. He does not have the money to pay for them himself." I reminded her that Derek also did not have the money to replace my laptop, but that point slid right past her. "You are older, Nathaniel. You should be setting an example, not holding grudges." That was when I truly began to realize just how deep this favoritism ran. To my parents, Derek was the baby who could do no wrong. If he made a mistake, it was my job to fix it, or at least overlook it. If I made a mistake? In their eyes, I never even got the chance, because they had already decided I was the cold one. Mom ended the call with her usual line, "We are family, Nathaniel. You do not turn your back on family." I hung up without answering, because honestly, I was afraid that if I opened my mouth, I would say something I could never take back. Later that afternoon, I had to stop by the house again, this time to pick up some tools I had lent Dad. As soon as I walked in, I felt the tension. Derek was in the kitchen with Mom, both of them laughing at something on his phone. When they saw me, Derek put on an exaggerated frown. "Careful everyone," he said loudly. "Do not get near Nathaniel's stuff or he will lock you out of your own accounts." Mom chuckled like it was the funniest thing she had ever heard. I ignored it and asked Dad for my toolbox. He grumbled something about learning to let things go before finally handing it over. But Derek was not finished. As I headed to the driveway, he followed me. "You know, you could just give me the 20 grand and we would be even," he said with a smug grin. I tightened my grip on the toolbox. "Even?" I repeated, my voice low. "Derek, you destroyed my laptop." He shrugged. "Yeah, but you are rich, Nathaniel. You will replace it in a week." "Me? I am trying to start something here. A real business. You could actually help instead of making everything about you." The fact that he genuinely believed this twisted logic made my blood run cold. That night, around 11 p.m., I got a text from an unknown number. It was a screenshot of a group chat: Mom, Dad, Derek, and a few relatives. Derek had written, "Nathaniel is throwing a tantrum because I accidentally broke his computer. He is locking me out of everything and refusing to help the family." Guess money really changes people. The worst part? The responses. "Wow, Nathaniel has always been like that," one aunt wrote. "Not surprised," another chimed in. Not a single person asked for my side of the story. At that moment, I realized I was not just dealing with Derek. I was up against an entire system that had enabled him for years. And if I was going to do something about it, I needed to be smart, calm, methodical, patient, because Derek was about to learn that when I decide to play the game, I play to win. 2 days later, I found out just how far Derek was willing to go. I was in the middle of a client meeting when my phone started buzzing repeatedly. First, it was a couple of missed calls from my bank. Then came the email subject line, "Unusual activity detected." My stomach dropped. I excused myself, stepped into the hallway, and opened the message. It was a fraud alert. Someone had tried to initiate a $9,500 wire transfer from my personal checking account to an account under the name Derek M. Dalton. My hands were trembling when I called the bank. They confirmed what I already suspected. The transfer request had been made online, using my correct login credentials. I had always kept my banking information private. My passwords were long and unique. But then I remembered my laptop, the one Derek dropped into the pool. It wasn't just the physical loss that hurt. It was the fact that my passwords had been saved on it. Even with water damage, someone motivated enough could extract data from the drive. And Derek, as careless as he was, had a friend who fixed electronics. I didn't have direct proof yet, but I knew this wasn't just him messing with streaming accounts or trying to make me look bad to the family. This was him trying to take my actual money. I told the bank to freeze my accounts immediately. While they handled that, I sent Derek a text, "Call me now." He didn't respond. An hour later, I got another call, this time from Mom. "You need to stop accusing your brother of things," she snapped without even saying hello. I was stunned. "Wait, so he already told you?" Her voice hardened. "He said you froze your accounts just to make it look like he stole from you." "That's manipulative, Nathaniel. You know he'd never do something like that." I wanted to scream. My own mother was defending him before I'd even explained what happened. "Mom, the bank has his name on the attempted transfer," I said slowly, as if she might actually process it. She didn't. People make mistakes when they're desperate. Maybe if you had helped him with his business, he wouldn't be in this position. That was the moment something in me snapped. For years, I tolerated being painted as the cold, selfish one while Derek got away with everything. But now, he had crossed a line there was no coming back from. This wasn't just family drama anymore. This was theft, an attempt to rip away something I had worked for my entire adult life. And my parents had made it clear, no matter what he did, they would stand behind him. The final blow came that evening. When I checked my mail, I found a notice from my credit card company. It was a confirmation for an additional authorized user being added to my account. The name? Derek M. Dalton. He hadn't just tried to take money. He was trying to make himself a permanent leech on my finances. And had done it without even pretending to ask. My pulse pounded in my ears. The betrayal felt cold, like ice settling into my chest. That night, sitting alone in my dimly lit apartment, I stopped thinking of Derek as my brother. He was just another problem to solve. And I already knew that when I solved it, it would be in a way I'd never forget. What he didn't realize was that I had far more than frozen accounts and password changes at my disposal. And he had just given me the perfect reason to use all of it. The days that followed were some of the lowest I had felt in years, not because of the money, but because of the realization that I was truly alone in my family. The fallout from Derek's smear campaign hit harder than I expected. Word spread through the extended family, and I started getting texts that made my blood boil. My uncle messaged me, "If you're really accusing your own brother of stealing, you need help." My cousin sent, "We all know you've always looked down on Derek. This is low, even for you." It didn't matter that I had proof. No one wanted to hear it. In their eyes, I was the villain, cold, calculating, and too successful for my own good. At work, things weren't much better. The destroyed laptop had set me back on deadlines. And while I had salvaged some files from backups, there were projects that needed to be rebuilt from scratch. I found myself working late into the night, barely sleeping, eating takeout over my keyboard. Every time my phone buzzed, I braced for another message, either from the bank about more attempted charges or from a family member telling me what a terrible person I was. I thought maybe a face-to-face with my parents could fix things. But when I stopped by their house, I didn't even make it past the front door. Dad, Martin, stood in the entryway, arms crossed. "We don't appreciate the way you're treating your brother," he said flatly. "Until you apologize, I think it's best you stay away for a while." I stared at him, waiting for some hint that he was bluffing, but there was nothing in his expression except disappointment directed at me, not Derek. Behind him, I could hear Derek laughing at something on TV. Walking back to my car that day felt like walking out of my own life. The people I thought would always have my back had chosen their side, and it wasn't mine. That night, I sat on my couch in my dark apartment, staring at my phone screen as Derek's name lit up. I didn't answer. Then came the voicemail, him laughing, saying, "You should have just given me the money, bro. Would have saved you all this trouble." Something about hearing that broke the last thread holding me back. The frustration, the anger, the humiliation, I stopped fighting it. Instead, I let it settle. Because anger burns fast and hot. But if you let it cool, it turns into something far more dangerous. Patience. The next morning, I stopped reacting. I didn't respond to texts. I didn't answer calls. I didn't defend myself to family. I went completely silent. To them, it probably looked like I had given up, like they had won. And in a way, I let them think that. I kept my head down, worked through my projects, and started quietly tying up loose ends. I closed old accounts, moved funds to places Derek couldn't touch, and called in a few favors from people outside the family, the kind of people Derek wouldn't even know existed. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. Walking away wasn't enough. Derek would keep taking as long as there was something to take. My parents would keep enabling him as long as they believed he was harmless. They needed to see what he really was. And Derek needed to feel the weight of every selfish choice he had ever made. And as much as they liked to think otherwise, I had far more control over Derek's life than he realized. All I had to do was wait for the right moment to use it. It's funny how when you stop wasting energy defending yourself to people who don't want the truth, you suddenly have so much left over to build something better. The first thing I did was upgrade everything. I replaced my ruined laptop with a top-tier workstation I had been eyeing for months. I doubled my security, invested in encrypted backups, and subscribed to services that made my workflow bulletproof. The same week, I landed a new contract with a tech firm overseas. The retainer alone covered the cost of the laptop twice over. The irony wasn't lost on me. Derek had tried to sabotage me, and all had done was push me into a higher gear. Money started flowing in faster than I could have predicted. I streamlined my processes, hired a freelance assistant, and freed up time for strategic work instead of constant firefighting. With that extra space, I began saying yes to opportunities one once would have ignored: guest speaking at conferences, consulting for startups, even appearing on a tech podcast. My name was spreading, my rates were climbing, and my life was expanding in ways I had never imagined. But success wasn't just financial. I reconnected with people outside the toxic family bubble. Old friends, professional contacts, even a few relatives who quietly admitted they didn't buy Derek's story. I kept those conversations light, never venting about family, just showing them I was doing well. It wasn't about proving a point. Not yet. It was about planting seeds. Meanwhile, I kept tabs on Derek. From a distance, I learned that his so-called business venture was already collapsing. He had been leaning harder on mom and dad for cash. Worse, he had been bragging to his friends about putting me in my place by ruining my laptop and dragging me into family drama. What he didn't realize was that some of his friends weren't as loyal as he thought. One of them, someone I vaguely knew years back, sent me screenshots of conversations Derek would regret ever having. Between those messages, the bank records from the attempted transfer, and the other pieces of evidence I had collected quietly, I was starting to build something, not just a legal case, but a blueprint for dismantling his entire little empire of excuses. The beauty was that he had no idea I was watching, listening, and stacking the deck in my favor. By the time spring rolled around, I wasn't just back on my feet. I was miles ahead of where I had been before. Then came the real turning point. One evening, I attended a networking dinner for tech professionals. There, I ran into Mr. Carson, an old family acquaintance who happened to be the vice president of a mid-sized investment firm in Denver. We caught up over coffee afterward, and somewhere between casual conversation and business, Derek's name came up. Mr. Carson's firm had recently been approached by Derek and his so-called partner for funding. Their pitch was laughable: no real business plan, unrealistic profit margins, zero experience. But what floored me was this: Derek had listed me as a silent backer. Mr. Carson showed me the proposal on his phone, and there it was in black and white. Existing backing from Nathaniel Dalton, cybersecurity consultant. He had even attached my LinkedIn profile to make it look official. My name, my reputation, my career dragged into his scam without my permission. That was the moment I knew I had all the leverage I needed. That was the moment I knew I had all the leverage I needed. I thanked Mr. Carson, asked him to forward me the full proposal, and he did, along with emails where Derek bragged about how my involvement would make investors trust him. With that, the puzzle was complete. I had bank records of his attempted wire transfer, the unauthorized credit card edition, screenshots of him bragging about ruining my laptop, proof he had used my name and reputation in his fake business proposal. On their own, each piece could cause trouble for Derek. Together, they could burn down every bridge he had left. But I wasn't just thinking about exposing him. I wanted to control the narrative. If I timed it right, Derek's downfall wouldn't look like revenge. It would look like the natural consequence of his own arrogance. The first move was a formal cease and desist letter drafted by my lawyer friend. It spelled out that using my name without consent for financial gain was not only unethical but could carry legal consequences. I sent it directly to Derek, his partner, and just to twist the knife CC'd my parents. I didn't call him. I didn't explain. I let the silence speak. Within hours, Derek blew up my phone. First came the outrage: "You're ruining everything." Then the guilt trip: "I thought you wanted me to do better." Finally, the threats: "You'll regret this when I make it big." I ignored every single one. 2 days later, I made my second move. I sent Derek's fraudulent proposal to every investor he had approached, with a short professional note. "This is to clarify I have no involvement in this venture and do not endorse it in any way." By the end of the week, his partner had dropped him, investors had ghosted him, and whispers spread through the same community my parents loved to brag in. The golden boy had cracks in his armor. Then came my favorite move. I compiled everything: bank records, credit card notices, screenshots, business fraud, and packaged it neatly into a secure PDF titled, "For Your Records." I sent it to my parents with one short note: "I thought you should see the whole story." No response needed. The impact was immediate. For the first time, my father went silent. My mother's only reply was 2 words: "Well, talk." And talk they did, just not with me. That night, Derek came home to find my parents waiting. From what I later heard, Dad confronted him with the evidence. Derek tried his same tired lines: "It was an accident. Nathaniel's exaggerating. He's making me look bad." But this time, it didn't work. Dad told him to pack his things. No more handouts. No more, just this once. Word spread quickly through the family. Those same relatives who had defended him fell quiet. Friends stopped answering his calls. His so-called business contacts cut him off. The golden boy image was shattered. The last time I saw Derek was 3 weeks later. I spotted him across the street outside a coffee shop. Shoulders slumped, hoodie wrinkled, staring down at his phone. He looked smaller, like the air had gone out of him. Our eyes met briefly. He didn't smirk. He didn't say a word. He just looked away and walked off. I didn't feel triumph. Not exactly. It was something steadier, deeper, the quiet satisfaction of justice. Because I had given him every chance to stop. He chose not to. And in the end, he destroyed himself with nothing more than his own greed and arrogance. As for my parents, they keep their distance now. Polite holiday messages, nothing more. The endless lectures about helping family have stopped. And me? My business is thriving, my life is peaceful, and my boundaries are unshakable. Because if there's one thing this entire mess taught me, it's this. Sometimes the most powerful revenge isn't destroying someone. It's showing them you never needed them in the first place. Do you think there should be limits to family loyalty, or does blood always come first? Share your views in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think.